The Cubs' new hope. We're going to take a look at the bullpen. And Patt returns to the show next. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to 4-Star Chicago Sports. This is the Northside 9, and I hope everybody is doing well out there and they're getting a chance to get outside to enjoy the outdoors, of course, after the Northside 9, because spring has officially sprung here in Chicago. And sure, our Cubs have dropped 3 in a row for the first time this year, but the sun is still shining, the weather is beautiful, and there's still plenty of baseball ahead. And this afternoon, we got a very special guest returning to the Northside 9, our favorite Chicagoland native, a respected voice in the Chicago Cubs community, and someone whose opinion I personally valued for years. He's been writing for the Cubs on Fansided since 2017, a familiar name to fans as the host of both Bill Swarsky's Sports Talk Chicago and Through the Garden podcast. We're thrilled to welcome back Patt. Alex, thank you so much for being with us today. How you doing, bud?
Well, thanks again for having me. I am doing well, and I got the window open right here as we do this, and you couldn't have asked for better weather today. Best baseball weather you can get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How you doing up there in the upper left there, Kyle?
I'm doing good, man. A little bit tired, but I'm all right.
A little bit tired.
I feel that.
Yeah, I've already cut my lawn, took my Christmas lights down, and I know that seems a little weird to say in May, but I had back surgery. I've only been cleared for 3 weeks, so I finally took the opportunity to get them down today. I had to climb 3 stories, so you don't want to do that with an injured back.
Well,
No.
we were really slow yesterday, but we got a really late night rush, so I didn't start cleaning the bar until 2:15.
Oh,
We didn't get home
really?
till like 4.
Oh, geez.
Explains why you're tired.
Yeah, and then with my 50-month-old, certainly
Yeah.
Doesn't help.
Thank God for Mama.
Hey, what's going on, Foster? What's going on, Scott? And we got breaking news, Bruce. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully, we'll pick this show up here in just a little bit. But we're going to get right into this thing because the Cubs, we've got off to a promising start this season, but the earlier momentum is starting to be tested a little bit, and some storm clouds are rolling in as injuries are starting to stack up. We lost Steele back on April 7th, and that was a gut punch because he was supposed to be the anchor of our rotation. Now we have Shōta hitting the IL, and he's looking to miss up to maybe 6 starts, and that's 2 of our top 3 starters off the board. But boys, with every setback, there becomes an opportunity, and that takes us to our first segment, brought to you by River Street Tavern, 102 North River Street, East Dundee, Illinois. And come out and enjoy good food, good friends, and good times. Boys, Cade Horton is one of the top arms in the Cubs system, and he's set to make his major league debut at some point during the ball game today. At least we hope. Horton is no ordinary call-up. He was drafted in 2022. Since he skyrocketed through the system with his elite stuff, his mid-90 fastball, his nasty slider, his developing change. Alex, Kyle, I have to ask you guys, can this guy be the knight in shining armor for this battered rotation? He's dominated at every level, and now he gets his first big league test. Well, the questions are, can he handle this pressure, or will the momentum be too big for Mr. Cade Horton? Alex, what are your thoughts to kick us off on Mr. Horton?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you look at this move, bringing him up, you know that he's capable of pitching, high-level stuff. He's not just some finesse guy. He's got great stuff. That's why he's such a highly touted prospect. His sample size in the minors isn't that big. He hasn't pitched a whole lot of professional innings. And obviously he was working back from injury last year. His biggest flaw, I guess, is command at times. And that's looked better in the minors recently. But when he first came back, he was walking a lot of guys, but he was able to work around that damage a lot. That was kind of a common theme for him in the minors. It's a whole new ball game in the majors. And no matter how high a prospect is, it's very hard to bring in a pitcher who's never pitched in the major leagues before for him to stop any bleeding or kind of be I guess, a savior. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think with Cade Horton, we look at him as, I'd say, more of a boost, but not really a solidified solution to all your woes. I mean, listen, when you see both of your top pitchers get hurt, that is hard to replace no matter what. I mean, it's so unfortunate that we have to go through this, but look at the nature of pitching injuries now. A lot of teams go through things like this, and unfortunately with Steele, he got the worst of it. He's out for the year.
Yeah.
Hopefully Shōta Imanaga won't be out too long. You don't want to rush him because you don't want to risk further injury, but you don't want him to be out too long, ideally, because, and we were talking about this in the pre-show, Colin Ray and Matthew Boyd, who have both done a great job, they're not going to sustain 2 ERAs. I really don't believe that they are. Their career numbers just don't tell you that. And Matthew Boyd's had injury issues in the past. He's going to run into a few issues, but hopefully he can still pitch pretty well overall. Same with Colin Ray. But with Cade Horton coming up, it seems like they're practicing caution here. They're not trying to throw him to a fire, which I think is debatable at times, but for him to get a taste in the big leagues and help the Cubs out a little bit, stabilize things a little bit, hopefully he can do that. It's so hard to project what a guy is going to be in the major leagues when he hasn't pitched in the major leagues yet, when he himself is coming back from a notable injury last year, and a guy that's got great stuff. But, again, like I said, there have been command issues in there, but the stuff is electric, and I hope that it plays dividends for the Cubs here.
Cal?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Alex, Sean. I mean, I think if the Cubs had it their way, they probably would have kept Cade Horton down there for a little while longer. But just the injuries to the front end of the rotation have just taken the option out of their hands. And, to all Cubs fans, you got to be patient and have fair expectations. This guy is not brought here to save the day. He's not brought here to stop the bleeding. He's brought here because the Cubs are running out of options. That's pretty much all it is.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with the Cubs easing him in. I don't expect him to come in here and be the best pitcher in baseball, be the ace in the NL. I expect him to come in here and get better every single day. And as long as he does that, I'm happy. I mean, he pretty much there's not much more he could prove in the minors, Sean. Over his last 5-6 starts, he's been absolutely amazing. It's time to get him some major league competition, see where he stands. But it's definitely going to be a developmental process for sure. I do not expect him to come in here and pitch to a sub-2 ERA. But if anything they can get out of Cade Horton right now is a bonus for the Cubs.
Yeah, and I asked you guys if you thought the moment would be too big. People probably don't remember that this guy did pitch in front of the College World Series, in front of some raucous crowds at Oklahoma. He did sign with Oklahoma to be a quarterback as well. So I don't think the debut would be too big. And I wanted to ask you guys, now that we know that Brad Keller is getting the start today, do you guys agree with the decision, while Horton is going to be active and on the roster, not facing Lindor, Soto, and Alfonso to start, possibly mitigating any early damage? Do you think that this was the right way to handle the situation? Because I was looking on X and I see some fans one way, see some fans the other way. So do you guys believe that this was the right decision? And I'll tell you really quick, I personally do agree with it, because I really wanted him to start against the White Sox, what, no offense to White Sox fans, kind of more resembles a AAA roster from start to finish, where I think he could have more of an impressive start. But do you guys believe Cubs management is handling this situation correctly today in Queens? Alex?
I go back and forth on it, honestly, because there's a part of me that says, listen, you get called to the majors, you got to face who you got to face. You're going to have to face the elite eventually, right? But, at the same time, giving him, I guess, what you could call a softer landing. I mean, if you're going to face through a lineup, you're going to pitch more than an inning. You're going to see them eventually. But I guess this is just going to be I'm going to trust what Craig Counsell is going to go with type scenario, regardless of my opinion. This isn't something where I think, this is the worst decision ever. I vehemently disagree with it. Would it be how I would personally handle it? I'm not so sure. But I think that if Craig Counsell feels this way, I'm still going to trust Craig Counsell on this kind of thing. I mean, remember when he was in Milwaukee, he used openers a lot, even in playoff games. You could probably remember some of those. And, say what you will about Craig Counsell managing the pitching staff, because it's been such a weird ride so far in his year and a quarter as Cubs manager, working what he has to work with compared to what he worked with in Milwaukee. It's a little different, but I'm going to trust that he is doing this in the best interest of Cade Horton and the team. So it just kind of is what it is to me.
Yeah, to me, it really doesn't matter, Sean. I mean, I trust the $40 million man, right? You just paid Craig Counsell to come here in the Chicago Cubs. I don't think David Ross was a terrible manager. The Cubs just thought Craig Counsell was better. You paid the guy to come here, you need to trust him. I mean, this is basically, to me, it's like in the NFL, when you put a rookie quarterback in, you give him a couple screen passes, a couple slant routes, some layups, just so to get his confidence up a little bit. But I mean, at the end of the day, like Alex said, at some point he's going to start to face the Pete Alonsos of the world and the Francisco Lindors of the world. I expect him to pitch more than one inning today, and he's going to run into those guys eventually. But yeah, I mean, if this is how Craig Counsell wants to start him off, just ease him in, that's fine. I'm okay with it.
And the one thing for me was the one thing I was taking away and about Cade Horton as of late. And I put this little chart together for his last bunch of starts that he's had. He seems to be starting to limit the walks. If I can even find it, that would be fantastic. Oh, there it is. He seems to be limiting the walks just a little bit here.
It's gotten better for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. He over his last 3 starts, I believe he's only had one. There it is. 3 walks over his last 3 starts. He's also moved up from those 4 innings to 6 innings. In his last start, he had 76 pitches. Me personally, I want to see him. I would like to see him go 3 or 4 innings today. You know, I have this fear in the back of my head. I really do have this fear in the back of my head. We're not going to see him at all. If Keller, and let me ask you guys this, if Keller comes out, and Keller's looked pretty decent, lifetime around 5 earned run average, but he's looked pretty good in his setup role or wherever they've asked him to plug and play. If he comes out and he's solid in that first inning, goes 1, 2, 3, you leave him in for 2, 3, two or 3 innings, and the second half to that is the one thing, and maybe you guys will agree or disagree on this. The one thing I don't want to see Cade Horton have to do today is come in with runners on base.
Yeah, I don't want to see. Yeah, I don't want to see a dirty inning either. Frankly, I really don't want to see a dirty inning. I think Keller at most goes 2. I mean, because listen, he's been a starter most of his career, but he has acclimated himself to pitch like a reliever. I think he could go more than 1 inning, but no more than 2. Obviously, it could depend on pitch count, how he does. Does he give up any runs? Does he give up any? It's all going to depend on a few things. But if he can pitch like 2 clean innings, then I think that's the most you would get in that situation. Or maybe Counsell does opt to just go with 1, or he goes 1 1/3, 1 2/3, whatever that is. He might have not necessarily an inning limit, but a pitch limit, like a number of pitches. So we'll just see how that goes. But I don't think he goes more than 2, frankly.
Yeah, I hope he goes at least 2. I mean, this is kind of like one of those bullpen days for the Cubs, but who's going to be pitched tomorrow? The Cubs are kind of running out of options here, guys. Craig Counsell, as much as I respect and think he's done a great job here, some of his bullpen choices have been kind of interesting to me since he's joined the Chicago Cubs. It seems to me like he's willing to put a guy in there who is not one of the best arms in their bullpen. He'll give up a couple of runs, the Cubs will lose the lead, and then he wants to throw Porter Hodge in. It's like, some of this stuff he's doing, maybe he's just trying to get to know this team. I don't know, but I certainly hope Brad Keller can go as long as possible. And I hope they can get 4 or 5 innings out of Cade Horton as well, Sean. I mean, sooner or later, you're going to start running out of arms here. I mean, are you just forfeiting your game tomorrow against the Mets?
Yeah, it's getting close, and we're going to get into this bullpen in here in just a second. The last question I wanted to ask you guys before we move off of Cade Horton, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to touch on about Mr. Horton before we moved on. Anything, guys? No?
I mean, like I said, Sean, I just remember Cubs fans have fair expectations. This guy is not here to be the knight in shining armor. He is not here to save the day. This is a prospect who the Cubs only can hope can get better every single day. That's it.
These circumstances are tough. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I said. I think that the injuries to the front of the rotation forced the Cubs' hand. I don't think they wanted him to be here at this point.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And Alex, would you agree that this was probably more of a August, September call up if it wasn't for these front end injuries?
Maybe a little sooner than that, but I think that they would want him to get a few more starts in AAA before they got here. But like Kyle said, you had injuries. You needed to do something. And I mean, when you think about it too, is if you're trying to supplement your rotation with injuries and you are in a spot in the season where you're not going to make the big deal yet, you might get somebody in a smaller deal, someone that could just give you innings. Like, I mean, they called up Chris Flexen recently.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy that can start or relieve. I mean, we saw him in his debut with the Cubs pitch those last few innings because they were up so much it didn't really matter, and he looked really, really good. So, you know, you just kind of try to find arms where you can, and you only have so many of them. And unless you're going outside, you know, right now, if you're going outside, you know, you're not going to land the big fish. And frankly, the big fish, pun intended, has an ERA over 8 right now. So if you catch my drift.
Yeah. I keep hearing Sandy Alcantara. I'm like, guys, go take a look. I don't know if you want that guy. He's certainly not going to save the day. I can tell you that.
No, I mean, he could get better down the road, but now it's, hey, he'd be cheap, right?
And by all accounts, the Cubs have a very good pitching coach staff. So maybe he'll come here and they can fix something in his delivery.
Sure.
But I mean, right now, man, he's been rough.
Let me ask you guys this, because they're one game under 500, but Kyle knows I've been all over this, and I kind of wanted this move to happen, and the Cubs kicked the tires. I haven't heard anything. It's just a name that I threw out there because they were like 7 games under 500, so the Twins have gotten a little hot. Alex, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, but Pablo Lopez is somebody who I think the Cubs should be kicking the tires on. I don't know if he could be as good as Justin Steele, but their numbers career-wise are pretty close. So would this be something and you would have team control until 2027 under him as well. So you have a couple of years on that deal. Is this something that you think the Cubs should have possibly already tried to go after before the Twins get hot? Or is it just too early for any team to give away a front-end pitcher like that?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to trade away a guy like that just yet because, okay, the Tigers are the best team in the American League, and they're running away with the division right now. But look at the rest of the American League. Like, the Twins aren't out of this per se. You know, they have a chance to compete. You know, things could fall off, and they say, okay, we'll sell. And, you know, the Twins are kind of a weird team. You know, they're just kind of an odd team where you look at them, you're like, they're not that good, but they can find ways to win. I mean, obviously, in the old days when they had like Joe Mauer, it's like, okay, that's a team that's got guys on it. But you look at the last few years, obviously, you know, you've gone through some guys that are no longer there, but, you know, Byron Buxton never quite reached his potential with all the injuries. But just a few years ago, they won a playoff series. They were a very, very good team. They like to have great seasons and then have awful seasons. It's like the Vikings. It's like they switch off every other year. I don't look at the Twins right now and think on paper they're really that much of a threat to do anything. But if the American League stays pretty mid and they're in reach within a wild card spot, I don't really know how they're going to handle it. On the same time, they might be somewhere near a wild card playoff spot, whatever. And they might just look at their numbers. They might look at their investments. They might say, hey, you know what? We're going to punt this one and we're going to try down the road to be better. So maybe we sell high. It's hard to say right now with them. Like I said, they're a weird team, but I think that's the guy you got to keep an eye on because you look at other teams around the league. It's like, all right, how many non-contending teams have great front-end starters that you could acquire? I mean, most of the good front-end starters are on teams that are trying to compete. So they're not going to trade them away. Unless maybe the Mariners and Luis Castillo could be something to keep an eye on.
Okay.
You know, maybe there. But look at the AL West. It's not a powerhouse.
No.
The Astros aren't what they once were. The Angels are terrible. The A's are competitive, I think, but are they going to be a real threat to win anything meaningful? No, but they're going to be a team that can give you kind of a hard time. You got some talent there. Maybe they sell Luis Severino. I don't know. Though they might have to keep the salary just to say they're paying somebody. But, you know, if you're looking at the Mariners right now, like, they're probably going to try right now. But if they end up selling, Luis Castillo could be one of those guys. So there's a handful of guys you can keep an eye out on. But like I said, there's no like Texas Rangers Yu Darvish sitting out there or Washington Nationals Max Scherzer out there right now. Things can change over a few months, but right now your options of buying a big start at the deadline, you're looking at Lopez potentially, Sandy Alcantara, who struggled, maybe Luis Castillo, and then a bunch of arms where you're like, okay, they could supplement in there for you, but they're not going to be a top 2 starter. We'll see. A lot can happen. We'll see.
Yeah, it wouldn't do any of these teams any favors to sell right now, Sean. The closer they get to that deadline, the more leverage they get, the more bidders there are, the more they can ask for. Yeah. And if you're the Cubs, you got to ask yourself, like, I mean, what's the realistic possibilities of winning a World Series this year or even next year? I mean, how much of your future are you willing to part with for one of these guys who, like you said, Sean, maybe you get a couple of years control of them, or a guy who you could consider a rental. But I mean, if the Cubs are going to start to part ways with pieces like Alcantara or Cassie, they need to make sure they pick the right guys. They need to make sure they know what they're doing, because you remember you have a bunch of expiring contracts on this team, and the Cubs also are going to have to pay some guys coming up here. I mean, obviously Kyle Tucker's due for an extension. Ian Happ's at the end of his contract. Nick Warner's at the end of his contract. I mean, it's going to get very interesting for the Cubs here. They're going to have to make some very smart business decisions come up. But if I'm at any of these teams who are willing to part ways with the any front end rotation guys, I'm waiting to as close to the deadline as I possibly can and getting as much as I possibly can, because some of these teams are going to get into like desperation mode, and you're going to have to start competing with teams like, say, the Yankees or Dodgers if they want to add another starter, and they don't care. They'll give them anything they want.
you know, this was one other thing that I ran across actually just last night when I was combing through Twitter before bed, and I don't know if there's any validity to it. Or, you know, anything behind it. I do know that Rafael Devers and the Boston Red Sox are at odds. That is an actual fact in this situation. Do you think that this is something, if the Cubs wanted to put a guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, Ben Cowlis, maybe with, I don't know, Owen Casey and maybe one of the minor league pitchers over to Boston, if they would accept that? I saw some crazy trade, or even Matt Shaw. You throw Matt Shaw in there, say, hey, you let him develop with you. We'll take Devers. He can be our third baseman for a few years. Is this something that you guys would consider? I mean, he's a damn good baseball player, but seems to be a pain in the ass at the same time.
Yeah, I've been racking my brain on that one, because career-wise, you're getting a hell of a bat. Like, you want to look for your Aramis Ramirez type bat. There it is. It's right there. Not the greatest defender at third, and I know that a lot of the belly aching at third has been over the defense. Yeah. But, you know, they acquired Aramis Ramirez. He was not a Gold Glove defender, especially when he came over in 2003. He was far from it, but the bat always made up for it. Now, here's the thing. That's an expensive and long contract, and how much you take on financially can ease what you trade over to Boston if you are giving them relief. Because you know what? As big of a market as Boston is, they're not cheap, but their fans too have been frustrated with not investing in certain things. I think that they're a little spoiled over there, but you know, they've wanted John Henry to shell out more dough like the Yankees or the Dodgers. And hey, they're a big brand, big market just like us. So, you know, I get it. So maybe that relief would help acquire him in terms of what you would have to give back. But remember this too, if you're going to pay him, are you then going to pay Tucker? And then are you going to pay PCA down the road? Because you're going to be taking on a lot of money. I just don't know. I don't know how much they'd be willing to take on. I don't know if it's worth taking on all that money, but I can understand the appeal to just get another great bat in there. I mean, could you imagine if they signed Alex Bregman? You'd be getting a still reliable third base glove and an above average bat. So, and sure, you can argue that he does play better for Fenway Park than Wrigley Field. I understand that, but you know, at this point, we're back at square one of being desperate at third base yet again. Yeah. It was like that last year. It was like that the year before. It was like that the year before. How many times do we go through the Birdies, Madrigals, Mastrobonis, Bruhans, Nicky Lopez's at a position that's just too damn important. You know, it gets tiring after a while, frankly.
Yeah. Why, we're talking about the fourth most valuable organization in baseball, and here we are 3 years in a row now. We've been talking about third base and the bullpen. I mean, why are we talking about the same things over and over and over again? The Chicago Cubs can afford to address these issues in the offseason. They just choose not to. And Sean, I would love Devers on the Cubs, but to be honest with you, if you take on that salary, if knowing the Cubs, knowing the Ricketts, wouldn't that pretty much, you'd basically be out on a Kyle Tucker extension. So no, I do not want him here. And on top of that, Craig Counsell wants players who are versatile and willing to play numerous positions. Rafael Devers is already telling the Boston Red Sox he's not going to play for first base no matter how much they ask him.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Craig Counsell would like Devers on this team, but yeah, like Alex said, he took the words out of my mouth. I mean, how long have we been talking about this third base position? And the counterpoint, Sean, how many Cubs fans were complaining about PCA when he first came up here and he couldn't hit the ball to save his life? And people were, we kept saying, be patient, be patient, be patient.
Yeah.
I think if I were them, I'd bring Matt Shaw right back up here. I mean, I don't think Birdie or anybody else the Cubs are using at third base is doing them any favors. There's been so many errors over there. Was Matt Shaw that bad? If you go back and look at it, was he really that bad compared to the guys who have been there lately? I don't think it's that big of a difference. I would let Matt Shaw come up here and be patient with him, just like you were PCA and Miguel Amaya. And look how those guys are doing. I mean, at some point, the Cubs are going to have to lean on the farm system because they've been telling us about it for 5 years now. So if the farm system is as good as they said it was for the last 5 years and it was top 10 in baseball, then let's see these guys, bring them up. At this point, the Cubs have to either go all in and lobby their future and go get a starting pitcher, a third baseman, and if they want to compete for World Series, or be patient. No, you're not going to win the World Series this year, and let's start to see what some of these kids got.
Yeah, I wish Mo Baller played third base because our problems would be solved.
That would be
yeah,
that would be epic.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
You would need a Suzuki injury to see Mo Baller up here, Sean. I don't think you're going to see him.
I think Suzuki, maybe Bush, or one of the catchers. I think all four of those would be viable to bring Mo Baller up because he has played catcher and first. So if Bush were to go down, you could get him over there. I don't know how good of a defenseman he is at first base, defensive first baseman. And then obviously Suzuki, like you said, Kyle, get that bat in the lineup and see if he can hit major league pitching. Because honestly, I mean, you guys probably will agree with this. I don't know what he has left to prove at the AAA level. I mean, this guy is just raking, dude.
Hitting wise, he's got nothing left to prove. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, from the bat, but I mean, like, and another scenario you could throw in there is, God forbid, Kyle Tucker gets hurt. Well, then okay, Suzuki to right, and then DH is going to be Mo Baller. I mean, the thing is, the Mo Baller's basically been a DH this year. I mean, he's one of those guys where it's hard because he doesn't really have a reliable defensive position right now.
Yeah.
But that bat is so good, but your DH is set. So, and I've had people say, "Oh, you should just trade Suzuki." No, you don't just do that. It's because as good as Mo Baller's been in the minors, you're still bringing up a guy whenever you do who's never played in the majors before, and Suzuki could play in the majors. As frustrating as he could be at times, because he's going through another one of those infamous slumps, but he always works out of them. I mean, we know that, but he was so hot. It was almost like, I know coming up, he's going to go through one of those stretches where he has a week or two where it looks like he's never taken an at-bat in his life, but then he always seems to straighten it out. So, that's one thing about this Cubs team as a whole. Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ to an extent, is they are incredibly streaky.
Yeah.
Is it just me, guys, or does Mo Baller kind of give you Kyle Schwarber vibes? Like, you want to force that bat in the rotation, right? Like, you can tell he's clearly just has God-given talent on offense, but there's just nowhere to put him on the field, and I don't think they trust him as a catcher. I know I've heard reports coming out of the minor league system that he's getting better, but that's certainly not what you want to hear from the catcher position. That's an important position in baseball.
And your catchers have been good.
Yeah, and and especially, I mean, guys, we sat here for the last month, Sean, talking about Carson Kelly's going to come back down to earth. Carson, I mean, and I guess he's coming down, he's slowing down a little bit, but he's still playing much better than his career averages. I mean, this guy, you can't take Carson Kelly out of the rotation. Miguel Amaya certainly has not done anything to be taken out of this rotation or out of the batting order. But yeah, I mean, it's just this Kyle Schwarber vibes all over again, man. This guy, he has one of the hottest bats in the minor leagues, but there's just nowhere to play him on the field.
Yeah, and as you guys were talking about streaky Dansby Swanson, I just threw that up. I mean, is his bat back? His last 15 games. This is before yesterday. This dropped all a little bit because he did not have a hit yesterday. Did the graphic, didn't have time, but close enough. But he's been red hot and he's been kind of back. So, I heard this what was it, a couple weeks ago, the Cubs lost a game, and I was like, oh, I knew this offense was going to slump. The offense is going to be fine. I do believe that. This team is going to hit from top to bottom. The question is going to be, can we fix the bullpen? Can we keep this rotation afloat? I think if Cade Horton can work out and you get Shōta back, I think you're going to be in a good position. Still probably struggle come playoff time because, inexperience with Cade Horton. I still think, though, and tell me if I'm crazy or not. Even with Cade Horton going up against Lindor, the Polar Bear, and Soto, he still kind of has that advantage because they've never seen him pitch either. So they don't know what he's dealing with. And I mean, let's not pretend like Horton can't deal because he's got some nasty stuff coming off that.
Right.
arm.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a two-way street. When you have a new player come to the league, it's either, the batter's never seen him before or he's never faced a major league batter before. It kind of goes either way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've done their scouting report on Cade Horton. They know what he throws. But, yeah, until you see it in person, it's tough to deal with. And I think Cade Horton's going to have success in Major League Baseball. I just don't know if it's going to be immediately. Like I said, Cubs fans have to have fair expectations. This guy needs to be given the same amount of time that every other prospect in baseball is given, unless you're talking about a guy like Paul Skeens, who's generational, comes around once every 10 years. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Dansby Swanson, Sean, it just seems like moving it. I mean, that was the best move they ever could have made, is moving him down in the order. I mean, he's been absolutely amazing since they did that. It seems like maybe he just doesn't like the pressure of batting in the middle of the order. I don't know what it is, or maybe he was insulted by the move. I don't know, but he's been absolutely amazing since they did that. He needs to be, Sean. He's their highest paid player. He needs to be that guy.
I was going to say, though, I still like the makeup, even with him down there, because we talked about this, I think last week, Kyle, how the bottom of this lineup is kind of setting the table, and the top of the lineup, you have 29 or 30 RBIs, I think now, out of Kyle Tucker, 29 out of Suzuki. So that bottom half of the order is getting on. The offense is working on the way it's supposed to, like a well-oiled machine right now. 7, 8, 9 are getting on. Top of the order's coming up, moving them around. I mean, it's a train. It hasn't worked for the last couple of days. We ran into a couple juggernauts. But, I wanted to ask you guys this, because the Mets lost Manaea. They lost Thor, and they replaced them with Clay Holmes, who pitched against us yesterday, who was a failed, what was he? Was he a failed reliever? I know Canning was.
He was with the Yankees, yeah.
He was with the Yankees. Now you have Canning on Sunday, who's another failed reliever. I believe he came from the Angels. And now Miguel today, he's a good pitcher. He's a legit rotation guy. But they've rebuilt this rotation very cheaply, how the Cubs have tried to do it as well. It's kind of a resounding resemblance between the two teams, and it's kind of working.
Yeah, but the Mets have also spent $700 million on one player.
Well, they got Soto. They got Soto.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Well, and before we move on, I want to, Alex, we haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, because this has been an answer for me, because I feel like the gun's to his head and his head's over the fire, and he really has no choice. I believe Tom Ricketts will re-sign Kyle Tucker to a long-term deal because he has no choice, not because he wants to spend the money. Do you agree or disagree that he's going to do this unwillingly, but he has no choice because of the scrutiny, and this could kill his brand if he doesn't?
Yeah, call me delusional, but my hopes for them re-signing him have gone up. Because, like you said, there's all the pressure in the world to bring him back. And I think if you have success, that'll entice him to stay here. And I'm hoping too, and again, this is all just hope, I'm hoping that with some of the rumored conversations they've had, they're able to kind of help create some terms, create some boundaries, create some ideas on how they can do this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think it's impossible either, because there was a time when I thought, okay, he's a 1-year rental, but and I think about it too, is whatever happens, I do believe that they want him back. It might not be within their parameters, but if you're going to make a deal like that, it would be hard for me right now to imagine, with where they're at, what they have, that they would just try to make this a 1-year thing with what they gave up. So I'm sort of with you. I think that there is more added pressure now than there was a few months ago, especially with the way he's playing, with the fan base, with the national media, with what he brings to the team. And if they keep having success and he's a part of it and he's making them money, well, guess what? You got to spend money to make money, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, Sean. I think that's the only way this deal gets done. If it's kind of like a Matt Eberflus situation where the national media and the fan base basically forced the Bears' hand into firing him. I mean, we need more Chicago Cubs beat writers, more sports writers to tell the Ricketts, hey, you guys are gonna look really bad if you don't give this guy an extension. And we need Cubs fans
and an angry locker room.
Yeah, and we need to shout it from the rooftops, like, hey, if you guys don't re-sign Kyle Tucker, my fandom is going to start to be in balance here. But Sean, in terms of the team itself, I agree with you. The offense is not the problem. And the offense is going to go through slumps like we've talked about 100 times. Like you just said with Suzuki, Swanson. These guys are going to get cold. They're going to get hot. They're going to get cold. They're going to get hot. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Cubs starting rotation and bullpen, I feel like they're just barely hanging on by a thread. Like we've talked about, Matthew Boyd and Colin Ray are career 4.5 ERA guys. And right now they're both pitching sub-3 ERAs. I mean, how long is that going to last? The Cubs are going to be forced into some tough decisions here pretty soon, because at some point, I don't wish this, and obviously I hope that they both finish the season with sub-2 ERAs, but I think at some point, baseball is a game of averages, and these guys are going to start to average out.
Yeah. One more before we move on to the second segment. Does PCA sign for $200 million in the offseason? I've heard the rumblings. What do you think, Alex?
It's so hard to say right now. I mean, obviously he bet on himself the first time, and he's played much better since betting himself for the first time. I mean, the nice thing is he's under control through a number of years now, so it's not super urgent. Yeah, 2030. So I think it depends on Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, me too.
I just think it's going to depend on those financials.
And do you think, though, they retain both of them? Because I think both of them are mandatory. I mean, you have to keep both of these guys.
Well, like I said,
marketable.
Yeah.
He's so marketable. PCA is so marketable. I mean, we went to Japan and they were chanting his name. I mean, he's so marketable. You could make so much money off PCA if you make him the face of this organization, but it's the Cubs.
Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, you're going to have him under control for a while. So it's not like next year is the last year of his deal. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate to say this, Sean, because he's an athlete making millions of dollars to play a kid's game, but I mean, it's. I feel bad for PCA. He's kind of in a tough situation because realistically, he should bet on himself. He's been an absolutely amazing player, and he's reaching that superstar echelon. The problem with PCA is if you're under control till 2030. They don't have to give you any more money. I mean, unless you're talking about arbitration. But I mean, it's like at some point, PCA, wouldn't you sign that $200 million deal just so you're rich? I mean, because you're not. He's going to be making basically the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm PCA, obviously I would not sign that. I think that $75 million extension was an insult. I think it was insulting to him, and it should be. That should be insulting because if you had power to that speed, you're talking about one of the most dangerous players in baseball. We've already seen what he can do on the base paths. If this guy continues to hit for power, he is in the superstar echelon for sure. But I think PCA is only hurting himself if he doesn't sign a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract. And I'm sure this guy wants to be rich.
Well, and think of this too, is with the way he plays, how long of a career is he going to have?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Is that going to be subject to breaking down quicker? There are durable players who are very well balanced. There are guys who are exciting and go all out, and by their early 30s, they're kind of over that hill and done. it's just something to think about. He's only 23 right now, so
Yeah.
a lot of baseball ahead of him. But
a lot of baseball ahead.
you know, it's there's a difference between re-signing, a guy like a career DH or something where you're not worried about injuries. They're going to go out and play 150 games a year. So, there's a lot that goes into this kind of decision.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, a guy like Albert Pujols, it takes a lot longer to lose bat speed than it does speed. As soon as PCA loses a step, if he's not the fastest guy in baseball anymore, how much does that hurt his value? And like
Right.
we've talked about numerous times, guys, I think we all expect a lockout at some point, right? So if the Cubs are going to sign 2 of these huge contracts, you're going to lose those 2 years as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're on the administrative side, the Cubs are in a very tough situation. They have some huge decisions to make coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, well, boys, as we're taking off from first, sliding into second here, our bullpen has been sending us some mixed signals as we start the season here. It's truly been a mixed bag, man. Some arms are stepping up, others not so much. So let's get a little bit into the good, the bad, and whether there's a reason we believe that they can turn this bullpen around. We got I got some sharp contrast here between Daniel Palencia and our struggling vet closer, Ryan Presley. And, I wasn't, as we have these numbers up, you can see they've got the 21st out of 30th bullpen in baseball. They've allowed the 6th most walks. They have the 6th worst whip in 129 innings pitched. I mean, something has to give here in this bullpen. And, Kyle, we've talked about this, and I've never had a chance to ask Alex about how he feels about Craig Counsell managing the pen, because Daniel Palencia to me has been a guy that they've been developing, and not only developing, but this guy seems to be kind of becoming the reliable guy out of the bullpen. His 4-seamer is rocking that 133 stuff plus. And for those who don't know what stuff plus is, it's the physical characteristics of a pitch, including but not limited to the release point, velocity, vertical and horizontal movement, and spin rate. It's generally the model that aims to catch the nastiest pitches in baseball. And a good plus stuff plus average is 100. Obviously, anything over that is amazing. And you're sitting there with Palencia sitting at a 133 plus. His 4-seamer is averaging 98.9 miles per hour with that 16.4 inch arm side run on it. 10.2 innings pitched, 169 earned run average, 9 Ks, 4 walks, and an amazing 0.65 whip. And if we flip that script, my friends, we go to the cold side of the ball and we get Ryan Presley. From closer to concern, 9.3 K rate, which is the lowest in baseball, whiffs on just 14.4% of his swings, and his strikeouts are 8.1% of the batters. Both are in the 1 percentile in baseball. So, boys, I told Kyle last week, Alex, I felt like they had to get these pieces in place, and the pieces in this bullpen were starting to come into place. But then I see Daniel Palencia when the Cubs are down by 4 runs coming in, and it's like, why are you doing that? Now you're not going to have him tomorrow if we're in a 1-run ball game. So I've been a little confused with some of the better players in this rotation or in the pen not getting the appropriate time they need in these big high leverage situations. Like if I ever see Caleb Thielbar come in again, like we were actually doing a show when he blew that game, and everyone said it was my most natural moment ever podcasting because I lost my head. I literally, and Kyle was on the air with me. I said, why is Caleb Thielbar coming in this 1-run game? Not even 5 minutes later is 4-3 Pirates. I'm like, now there was an error at third base that contributed to that by John Birdie, I believe it was, who misplayed the ball in game 2, but still, and maybe got Thielbar out of that. But Thielbar, for me, should never be in these pressure situations. As you're looking at this bullpen, Alex, as a whole, and Kyle, do you guys feel like there are some pieces here, maybe moving Hodge to closer, getting Presley, who did bounce back and had a good inning last night. Moving Presley out, moving Hodge in, who has struggled a little bit at times as well, but I think has the best stuff in this bullpen. If you guys feel different, please tell me.
Yes, I agree.
Do you guys feel like there's a 6th, 7th, and 8th that's here, and even possibly calling up a guy like Tyson Miller, who was good for us last year, who's in the minor leagues right now, playing very well? Do you guys feel like they can bring this bullpen back and the Cubs can solidify this as we continue to run through this season? Alex, what are your thoughts on this bullpen?
See, here's the problem. The main problem I have with this bullpen is a lot of the work it's done over the past 3-4 weeks has been really good. But when it blows up, it blows up. It's epic. Now, Ryan Presley does not miss enough bats for me to be a closer. I will give Ryan Presley credit. Before that historically awful outing against the Giants, he was an effective pitcher, but like you said, like this graphic says, he was not missing bats. You need to miss bats as a closer. You need to have as little ball in play as possible in a 1-run game in the 9th inning, down, trying to lock down a game. And I don't want Presley in that spot. Would I feel okay with him being in a 7th or 8th inning? Sure. I just don't want him to really be the closer right now. Porter Hoge isn't perfect. He's had some blowups himself. I mean, look at the game against the Diamondbacks or whatever, but I think he's the closest to what we have as a closer right now on this team. Because Daniel Palencia has been awesome, but I want to see a little more out of him.
Sure.
I feel like the sample size is fairly small. I like his stuff. I like Maki. It's just we have a smaller sample size right now. I've really liked Brad Keller. He's going to get the start today, obviously. Hollowell is kind of interesting. He's got that funky delivery, but throws with some pretty solid velocity. So that's one that I kind of like. I am going to give Thielbar this. Ever starting off pretty bad, he's been overall good this year, but I'd rather he be in a matchup situation where it's like, okay, you got some lefties coming up and he can get those outs there. Because, to be fair, in Pittsburgh, there was the error, and then Swanson could have made a better play on that ground ball. It was kind of just bad luck, I would say, in that game. But I wouldn't want Thielbar to be like a setup man or a closer. I like him as a matchup type guy. Because again, like, it doesn't work this way. Please don't make me sound like Dave Wanstead when I do this, but you can't say take away this, take away that, you would have won. But if you look at 3 notable blow-ups over the past few weeks, go back to the Porter Hoge blow-up against the Diamondbacks. And then you look at the Presley blow-up against the Giants. And then Brad Keller had that one bad outing against the Dodgers in that wild game. Yes, he got squeezed a little bit, but at the end of the day, you give up runs. Like, outside of those over the past few weeks, you've seen the bullpen do some good things. Not perfect, but I guess the other frustrating thing too is the bullpen will have a lights out game and everyone gives them a pat on the back. And then the next day it's the exact opposite. I think it's do I think it's the worst bullpen ever? No, but it's definitely one of the most inconsistent bullpens. That's for sure. Like, you can get something that's pretty good. You're like, wow, they did a great job. Or you're going to get something that is just so awful it makes you want to yak. I mean, when it's bad, it is embarrassingly bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, you got a couple hours to spare? I talk about this bullpen. I mean, this is what you get when you bargain shop, Sean. I mean, this is what we've been talking about for 3 years. The Cubs keep taking on these players with career 3.5, 4 ERAs and expecting them to turn into David Robertson. There's just not that many of those guys in baseball. Not everybody's going to turn their career around at 35 years old.
Yeah.
And how many times are the Cubs going to go into the season with a closer whose career ERA is 3.5? I didn't like Adbert Elsley there. I don't like Ryan Presley there. I said that before the season. And here's the problem. Like Alex said, Ryan Presley's actually been pretty good this year, with the exception of a couple games here and there, but that's who he is. He's inconsistent. And what can you rely on that if you're going to a playoff series against the Dodgers? No, you never know when this blow up's going to happen, when he's going to blow a game. But I mean, go look at his career. The guy's 36 years old. He has a 3.5 ERA. This guy should not be your closer. And like you guys already talked about, he doesn't miss enough bats. At least with Porter Hodge, who, yes, he's been inconsistent at times, but he's young and still has room to grow. And you should be grooming Porter Hodge right now into being your closer. That should be the goal for the Cubs, because then at least you know who your closer is for the next 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Something they haven't known for the last 3 or 4 years, right? Better take advantage of the situation while you can. I mean, like I said, you guys, I feel like the rotation and the bullpen are just barely hanging on by a thread, because they haven't been great to begin with, right? It's not like, I mean, they haven't been terrible, like Alex said. They've been inconsistent. They haven't been great, but it could get worse. If all these guys start pitching to their career ERAs, it's going to get worse. That's why you cannot bargain shop. I hate to come back to the same thing over and over again, Sean, but this is the 4th most valuable team in baseball. This team was purchased for what, $850 million. They're now worth close to what, $5 billion. And the Ricketts keep telling us they're breaking even. That's not breaking even. And the Cubs have the money. They can go spend and go get some of the best closers in baseball. They can be that team. They can absolutely be that team. They just choose not to. And here we are talking about third base, talking about the rotation, talking about the bullpen. It's the same things we've been talking about, guys, for the last 5 years. If the Cubs want to be a championship contender, if they want to be consistently a championship and have sustained success, it's time for them to start spending money. This was a bargain trade for them. Let's bring Ryan Presley over here and see if we can get the best out of him at 36 years old. See if we can get the best out of his. That's just not. This is who he is, guys. This is who he is. And even when they pitch well, like Alex said, Cubs fans have this day-to-day mentality. No disrespect, but it's like, this guy will have 3 good games in a row, and everybody's like, oh, we have a great closer. Have you watched him lately? Okay, but you guys, next Tuesday when he allows 9 runs, remember that I said this is a game of averages, and eventually that 3.5 ERA is going to come out. That's going to happen. How many teams in baseball, Sean, at least good championship contending teams, have a closer with a 3.5 ERA? Why does it seem like every team in baseball can find this guy who has a sub-2 ERA is almost impossible to hit, except for the Chicago Cubs?
Yeah, that's always frustrating. Yeah,
I'll throw 2 names out to you guys before we move on. Trevor Bauer and David Robertson, both still out there. Trevor Bauer's accuser has been pretty much found to be a lunatic hack, and all charges were dropped. I know that he's not the most mentally stable individual, but he is one hell of a pitcher. And you still have David Robertson, who I can't believe is a free agent, who's coming off a pretty damn good year last year. So should the Cubs kick the tires on either of these guys and try and bolster the rotation and the bullpen?
I mean, maybe you see what David Robertson has. I feel like there's got to be a reason nobody's wanted him. Right, there's got to be a reason. Trevor Bauer, I wouldn't touch with a 50-foot pole. I mean, look away from the one incident. Teams traded him because they didn't like him. You know, he was in Cleveland, they got rid of him. He was in Cincinnati, they got rid of him. I mean, it just, I want nothing to do with that. I mean, he hasn't pitched in the big leagues in years. His KBO numbers are meh. And I just, that is a PR distraction nightmare that I don't think anyone would want to deal with. So a big no on that. I mean, listen, Robertson, if he's in shape and you try to work him out, maybe try to see what he can do. I just wouldn't sign him and call him to the big leagues. I think that would be he hasn't ramped up in spring training. He hasn't been, pitching with other teams. So, but I don't know what's up with David Robertson, because like you said, he pitched pretty well last year. The fact that nobody signed him shocked me this offseason.
Yeah,
you look at some of the other guys and what they make, it's like, really? But I don't know. There's got to be a reason. It just has to be. Maybe there's a health thing we don't know about. He is pushing 40, so maybe there's something up with that. I don't know, but I feel like if they were normal circumstances, he would have signed in the offseason. Hell, I mean, the fact that not even like a low non-contending team could have gotten him at a nice deal and then you could flip him at the deadline. The fact that even happened, it just makes you wonder.
Yeah, Sean, Trevor Bauer I think the Cubs personally probably believe that wouldn't be a good look for the PR department. I mean, regardless of what happened in that case, most people probably didn't read into the details, and they would probably take a bunch of stuff for it. But yeah, in terms of David Robertson, to me, it's once again, what you're picking off the scraps of free agency. The reason these guys aren't on major league teams is because they're probably just not that great. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, why we are in this position again now where we're looking at free agency. We're talking about trades. I mean, the Cubs could have had more depth on this team with who they are, with the amount of money this team makes, where they stand in terms of value in baseball. But here we are talking about the same things over and over. The Cubs need to hope that this farm system, these guys continue to come up, perform well. And they need to hope guys like Eli Morgan, Javier Assad, Shōta Imanaga, these guys come back and are healthy for the rest of the season. There's going to be some more bumps on the road. You're just going to have to kind of duct tape this thing together. I mean, until this team goes out and starts spending money like the Dodgers, this is the problems you're going to run into. And this is how it's going to continue to go for them.
I forgot about Eli Morgan. And that was one of their first moves, I think, in the offseason.
Yeah. And I know he had that. I know he had that bad game, Eli Morgan, but I still have faith in Eli Morgan. You look at his last year and a half in baseball, he's been very good. Everybody's going to have bad games. There's a couple other guys on this team, Sean, who should not be on this team. And you just mentioned one of them. And I'm not going to say his name, but if that guy is ever here again, I'll be severely upset. He does not belong in Major League Baseball.
Come on, we're gonna get Nate Pearson.
Sean, tell me a time Nate Pearson came in and did not allow a run.
I don't know
didn't
if that's
happen
happened this year.
No, it did not.
So that's a good segue, because there are a couple guys that I wanted to get to down on the farm. So let's get into the farm report for this week in baseball and kind of take a look-see, where we're headed, because there's a couple guys down in the AAA level right now that could help the Cubs. And, the one guy, and I didn't study too much into him, so I'm really hoping that Alex can help us out here. One of the guys we're all familiar with is Keegan Thompson. He's got a 295 earned run average, 9 games this year. He started 3. He's pitched 21 innings, 20 hits, 7 earned runs, excuse me. He's only allowed 2 home runs. He's only walked 5 batters, 30 strikeouts, which is only 3 behind Cade Horton. And he's got excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, a 117 whip. So is this one of the guys you guys think that could help us get up from the minor leagues? And he's been here. He's done it. We've seen him be good. We've seen him be bad. Do you think he's got it, or is this just another here's a Band-Aid, strap it on there? And the other guy I wanted to ask you about was Connor Noland. I don't know too much about him. He's having a decent start to his season. He's got the same 117 whip, 31 strikeouts. He's walked 12, 35 innings pitched. He does have a 386 earned run average, but I looked into that. Most of that came in one start. He's been good besides that. So between these two guys, how do you feel about possibly those two guys and Tyson Miller, who is on a rehab start? He should probably be joining this club at some point, I would imagine. So if you had to pick those 3 apart from the minor leagues, what do you think about those guys, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, Keegan Thompson is a guy who obviously over the past 2 years has shown he could do it. Last year he was very good for the most part. Also had some really rough blowups too. He is prone to those rough blowups, but I mean, you look at the overall numbers on Keegan Thompson. I mean, last year and the year before, strikeouts per 9 over 10, an ERA of 2.67 last year at the big league level. And then you look at the year before where it was a bit higher. The whip was higher. The walks were higher. That's the big problem with Keegan Thompson is you're going to see a lot of walks, but if he could strike out guys out and get out of it, it's not the most ideal, but he's overall pitched well. Tyson Miller, I really liked him last year. Is he going to be as effective as he was last year? He doesn't really rely on high-powered stuff, but we know he can do it. So I think there's just a bit of a comfort level there of saying, hey, these guys have done it before. You're not relying on them of being back-end closers, setup men, but it can help provide you some more innings and some more decent quality relief. I still like Keegan Thompson, and
me too.
I just wish he didn't walk guys as much, but overall, I mean, he's been pretty effective. So I would not mind if they called on him at some point. Connor Noland, I'm not as versed on him, but he was a college pitcher. He came out a few years ago in the draft. He was with Arkansas. This year you pointed out the high ERA after the one bad outing. you look at his career strikeouts per 9, it's not that high, but his walks per 9 aren't that high either. So maybe a guy to at least keep an eye on, but I would go to probably Tyson Miller, then Keegan Thompson, then, down to Connor Nolan.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say what's up to everybody in the chat here, guys. Mike P, Jebediah, Breaking News, Bruce, Scott. We appreciate you all, you guys joining us. Thank you so much. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Yeah, I agree with Alex. The guy I'd like to see up here is Tyson Miller. I think Tyson Miller pitched really well for the Cubs. I think he was huge for this team last year. I don't understand why he's kind of fallen out of favor. I mean, I know he had some injury issues, but I'd like to see him come up at some point. Well, Sean, Keegan Thompson as well. I mean, Keegan Thompson, from what I understand, when they were making that trade with the Astros, it was between Keegan Thompson and Hayden Wesneski, and the Cubs decided to keep Keegan Thompson. So obviously they like him as well. So let's see him come up here at some point. It certainly wouldn't hurt at this point. But Sean, the name I want to see on the Chicago Cubs and be a mainstay here permanently and show some patience with the guy is Jordan Wicks. I mean, this guy had so much promise. The Cubs were telling us this guy is the most major league ready pitcher in the draft. We're taking him. He may not be he doesn't throw fire. He's not the best pitcher in the world, but he's going to be up here contributing soon. It's been 3 years. Where is he?
I almost put a graph up for him today, Kyle, but it was pretty embarrassing, so I didn't. I mean, he is getting just rocked.
I just don't understand it.
I don't either. I mean, in AAA, they're hitting .313 against him. He's given up, 13? I was just looking at it. He's given up, where was Jordan Wicks? He's given up 13 runs and 30 hits in 23 innings. He's given up 2 dingers. He's walked 11. He's struck out 20. His whip is 176. I don't know, because I'll be honest, and Alex,
it's just a missed first-round pick. I mean, right? How else could you possibly explain it?
Do you know something, Alex, about him? And also, they did bring up another point, and I don't remember whatever happened to Ryan Brazier. That's a good point there. Breaking news, Bruce. Whatever happened to Ryan Brazier?
He's been hurt. He's been hurt this whole time. I think they mentioned he's going to be on a rehab assignment coming up, because that's another kind of notable name reliever who's been around. He's pitched in the big games. He's seen it all. He won a World Series last year, but Jordan Wicks, I was a big Jordan Wicks supporter. Even last year when he went through some ups and downs, I was a big supporter. But boy, this year it has looked really ugly. And I don't know if his fastball is just being hit too hard, because he's got to get ahead to throw that changeup. When he gets ahead and he's able to throw that changeup, he's able to get guys out. But, location and movement and whatnot. But I want to still believe in him. I don't want to just completely toss him aside. But yeah, that looks pretty rough this year.
Well, that's disappointing, because I think in the Cubs' minds, or in the Brass's mind, that was one of the guys who they're going to rely on to be part of this rotation, and that's why we're dealing with guys like. Listen, I didn't like the Jameson Tyon signing when it happened. Sean, you know that. I talked about it many times. That was a bargain signing. That's what that was. I mean, and that was not a good offseason for free available pitchers. Jameson Tyon was actually probably near the top, but I would rather have the Cubs been patient and sign somebody else the next year. But you see the inconsistency with Jameson Tyon. Colin Ray and Matthew Boyd at some point are going to start to fall off a little bit. Like I said, Alex, like you said, I hope they don't. I'm not rooting for that. I think right now, guys, you could make an argument. Matthew Boyd may sneakily be the MVP for this team at this point in the season. He's been absolutely amazing. But yeah, I think Jordan Wicks was part of their plans, and it just hasn't turned into fruition. And it stinks, because I like Jordan Wicks as a person. I've heard nothing but good things. I root for him, but it seems like he's going to be one of those guys like Caleb Killian, who people keep talking about. Oh, he's got this stuff. He's got this stuff. He's got this stuff, but he can't put it together.
Yeah, it's the nature of baseball and pitching. You only hit on so much.
Yeah. This baseball itself is a conundrum, man. These, you get these 20. How many rounds the MLB draft now?
Too many to count.
It's like 20.
I was going to say too many.
Yeah, and half the first rounders don't pan out, and half the 18th rounders do. Like, it's just a very strange sport.
Yep.
And you guys, Kyle, you and I have talked about this guy in the past, but we're going to put a spotlight on two guys really quick. And the first one is a guy who I've been following very closely, and I think you have as well. And that is Jackson Wiggins. He is off to a fantastic start this season for the Chicago Cubs. He's known for his powerful fastball, which sits in the 94, 96 range. He can touch up to 99. He features that mid 80s slider with developing depth. He has that upper 80s changeup and solid fade. 12-6 curveball, occasionally uses that. When he's had control, as his control progresses, I should say, his physical attributes and raw stuff make him, the Cubs overall, by Baseball America, 9th overall prospect right now. He's got a high upside arm and potential to contribute significantly here in the future because he is at South Bend. He's also from Arkansas. He's drafted from Arkansas in 2023. Or 2022, excuse me. Or no, he in 2023, excuse me. He finished in 2022, 17 starts at Arkansas. So really quick, do you guys have you guys had a chance to look at Jackson Wiggins? Do you have any thoughts on him, Alex? As he looks to be a high upside front end starter for the Cubs in the near future. As he's skied through high A, he's already in double A, and I'll be perfectly honest, based on what we're seeing here with this, I expect him to be moving up to Tennessee pretty shortly.
Yeah, the way he's pitching, he's been really, really good. You mentioned the 171 ERA. He's striking the guys out, little high on the walks, but not like insanely high. But yeah, I mean, even last year when he was in single A, he put up numbers in high A, but low A in Myrtle Beach, he was really, really good. This is kind of one who I think is going to sneak into more radars of Cubs fandom. If Cade Horton comes up and he's doing this thing and we're looking down at the system saying, all right, who's our next big development guy? I think Jackson Wiggins is going to be in the center of a lot of those conversations.
Yeah, I think both Jackson Wiggins and Nazir Mule, Sean, they're going to have to play huge, crucial roles for this team in the future. Like I said, there's two ways to win a championship in baseball. You can either buy it or you can be really good at drafting, developing, trading. The Cubs are going to rely on these guys heavily, and I like both those guys, and I think they're going to play huge roles. I think Wiggins and Nazir Mule should be higher ranked in the Cubs farm system than they are. And Sean, you're right. At this point, if this is a team that's going to plans on extending Kyle Tucker, get those guys up to AAA as fast as you possibly can.
Yeah,
championship windows. It's going to be in the next few years here, Sean.
And I agree. This is a guy that I'm going to follow very, very closely because, as Alex just stated, if Cade Horton's is the mainstay here, he's probably the next big arm because it's kind of looking like, we had this faith in Jordan Wicks, and I think what we thought about Jordan Wicks was he was never going to be the ace of the staff.
No,
but you look like you could have had a solid 2 or 3 guys.
He should have been your tie-on. That's what he should have done.
Yeah.
Just eat some innings, right? But yeah, it's unfortunate.
The other guy I wanted to talk about was a guy that the Cubs came over in the Mark Leiter Jr. trade with Ben Cowlis, and he came over with Jack Neely as well. That trade is aging pretty well for the Cubs. You could see those 92 games were his numbers last year. They're on the bottom of the screen. He is the 22nd ranked prospect. He can play second. He can play short. His last 10 games in the minor leagues, this is kind of one of the reasons why I really wanted to get to this guy. He's had some honors over the past week. He was named player of the game 2 times in this past week. Over his past 10 games, he has had a let me find that. Sorry. A 302 batting average, 7 RBIs, 6 runs, 7 doubles, 23 total bases, 13 hits, 43 at bats, 9 strikeouts, and what's most amazing is 0 walks. And I'm going to combine something with him because Kyle knows this is my favorite prospect in all of the Cubs organization, and that's Jeffrey Rojas. His last 10 games, 342, 7 runs, 11 RBIs, 2 home runs, 6 Ks, 4 walks, 1 double, 1 triple, 13 hits, and 38 at bats. The reason I bring these guys up to you is because we've been sitting here for the last hour and 10 minutes talking about pieces that the Cubs could trade and move. And as much as Cowles looks really good, and Cowles does look good, he's flashed some leather. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at his highlights, but I was looking just this past week. He's made some sensational plays at second base. This is a guy that I think the Cubs could feature because he's kind of platooning with James Triantos, who's another guy who I think you could feature in a trade. Would this be a guy, Nico Horner's getting a little long in the tooth. Dansby Swanson's here.
And an expiring contract.
And an expiring contract. But at the same time, you have multiple people. Christian Hernandez, who's by all counts, having a great season so far this year. You have Jeffrey Rojas. You have Cowles. You have James Triantos. These are all infielders. So if you're going to make a trade and you see how well these guys are doing down on the farm right now, and if anyone says Jeffrey Rojas, I'm going to jump through this computer. Would you feel comfortable trading some of these pieces away in a deal, and do you fire up because that you're recycling the lighter trade, but you're getting more return back for a pitcher and or maybe a third baseman in what you need? So what are your guys' thoughts on Cowles, who's having a great week, and then these upper echelon prospects like Triantos, Rojas, and Hernandez?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to trade guys. If you're going to be going all in, you're going to have to trade some of these guys. And obviously it's hard to project the future, like who's going to fit in where, who's going to be in what 2, 3, 4 years down the road. So if the Cubs are still in this, hopefully they will be by when that time comes. I think we do have to be more comfortable trading some of these guys if you do want to go all in. When I think about untouchables right now, I mean, Cade Horton right now to me is an untouchable out of necessity. I think if you're going to trade somebody like Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara, you're going to have to really be guaranteed something worth your while for that. Right. But some of those other guys, if you want to get a big arm that, that maybe suddenly comes available, you might just have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, there's not 38 positions on a baseball field. Some of these guys, you can't live in the farm system forever. Some of these guys are going to have to get traded at some point. And I think it comes down to when the Cubs believe that they can win a championship. I don't think it's this year. If I were the Cubs, I would not be trading away a ton of my future. Now, if you can get a guy, like you said, Sean, that you have under control into the future, when you get Justin Steele back healthy and you start to see, and Cade Horton starts to fit in this rotation, he starts to get comfortable in baseball, then, yeah, I'd be fine with trading some of these guys away. But if you're going to trade one of these guys away right now, like you said, Sean, if you're planning on extending Kyle Tucker and you still have PCA out there and not going anywhere, you can't have Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara out there together. I mean, somebody's got to go. But I would wait until you have a realistic chance of winning a championship before you start trading these guys away. It's got to, you got to get something really nice in return. And like Owen Casey is not going to go get you a front end rotation guy. You're going to have to throw in more than that. Maybe like Owen Casey and James Triantos packaged together. But I mean, like I talked about, I would hate to be Jed Hoyer right now because do you wait till the off season and go see if you can add a starting pitcher? Do you wait to see how Cade Horton plays out? Do you say, you know what, we probably don't have a realistic chance of winning World Series this year. Let's wait till next year when we have Steele, Imanaga, and Horton in the rotation, see if we can add somebody else then. Do you go all in this year and shoot for, do you guys, Alex?
You don't know if you're going to have Tucker next year.
Yeah. I mean, Alex, do you think that the Cubs are capable of winning a championship in 2025?
I'm not saying that they can't, but it's hard when you don't have your ace anymore. And even though teams have done it in recent years, I think that if they play the way they played for the most part, they do have the capability of it. I'm not betting them on it. I'm not saying they are. I doubt they do. I don't think they go very far in the postseason based on what they are right now. But I wouldn't not try, if that makes sense. I mean, yeah. I would put the Dodgers is more likely. The Padres is much more likely. The Phillies is more likely. The Yankees probably is more likely. There's 5 or 6 teams I would sadly put ahead, but I'm not saying they're completely incapable of it either.
Yeah, and and I agree with you. It's like for the fan base, you have to try, right? You can't just
Right.
be like, "Well, you guys, we don't feel like we're winning it this year, so we're just going to coast our way in the playoffs and be a first round knockout." I mean, you have to, for the fan base, you have to at least show that you're trying to win a championship. But that's what I'm saying. How much of your future are you willing to lobby? How much of your future are you willing to part with to try to make a run at a championship this year? And like Alex said, the most important part of this entire decision, everything we're talking about, is Kyle Tucker. Because if you extend Kyle Tucker, that championship window becomes a lot longer. If you don't, you're relying on guys like Kevin Alcantara, Owen Casey, or PCA to become Kyle Tucker. They have to be
And
the
I don't
center
think
stone.
Kevin Alcantara is going to be Kyle Tucker.
No, neither do I. I don't think the Cubs have Kyle Tucker in the farm system, and
No.
maybe they do. I don't know, but let's be honest, guys. What do you expect? About 50% of these guys probably pan out in the majors, about around, if that.
Yeah,
it's
around
not a high
50%.
number.
No,
It's not a high number.
But where I'm at as a Cubs fan is like, guys, like Matt Shaw should be here, Sean. He should be getting better every day and getting more and more. Let the major league game slow down for him a little bit. And if I'm the Cubs, I'm planning on winning a championship in the future. Like I said, like Alex said, is there a chance they can win a championship this year? Yeah, sure. But I think they're on the outside looking in. And if I'm the Cubs, I'm deciding who's going to be a part of this team in the future, where they're going to play, and I'm keeping as many of them as I possibly can. But you can't keep everybody. Right.
Let me ask you this, Alex, because Kyle and I kind of went through this, and we have our answers. We'll tell you what we said. We did this exercise last week down on the farm. If you had to make a trade today, and a team came at you, and it was between Casey and Alcantara, which one are you trading?
I'd be tempted to say Alcantara because I know based on some of the feedback right now is he's having trouble hitting breaking stuff.
Ah, okay. Would you
That's
agree?
my understanding.
Would you agree, though, that when it comes to the tools of the players, that Alcantara has more?
Yeah, I think he's more athletic. I think he has higher ceilings in some areas. Owen Casey doesn't feel as fancy or as high, but I feel like he's a bit more balanced and maybe a bit more stable. It's kind of, you're going between who's more likely to pan out to be a good player versus who could be a great player, where I think Alcantara's ceiling is higher, but I think his floor might be lower. That's just my take.
Alex, let me ask you this since you're here. Do you see any scenario in which Ian Happ or Nico Horner are on this team in 2026, 2027?
Depends on what they do over the year. If they trade away some of the guys that could be a part of that, then it's very possible. I would not be surprised if they go, once Nico's contract is done, if they went in another direction, I would not be surprised. And I am a big Nico Horner guy, but if you have the opportunity to add somebody that has a few more tools, that can maybe walk a little more, hit for more power, then maybe you go that route. I really like Nico Horner, but if you were to tell me, hey, when his contract is expired, they went in another direction, I wouldn't be overly shocked. Let's just say that.
Now, I mean, if Kyle Tucker is extended here, don't you think that's probably the only guy who's getting paid this offseason by the Chicago Cubs? I mean, besides a few bargain signings here and there, cheap signings, signing guys who have career high ERAs, hoping that they pitch better when they come to Chicago.
If you're talking about free agents, yes.
Yeah, like Kyle Tucker's probably going to be the only person paid by the Cubs this offseason if they decide to extend.
Right. Alex, now you can make trades for guys that aren't as big as spenders, or you go within your farm system. But yeah, I don't know if you're making a lot of big other free agent signings for unrestricted free agents.
Would you, when you were saying with Horner, were you saying bringing someone up from the minor leagues like a Christian Hernandez or a Jefferson Rojas or a Triantos or something like that? Is that what you were saying? Not re-signing Horner and bringing one of those guys up to replace him?
Yeah, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that if that happened, it wouldn't shock me. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. So, yeah, there we have it. That was this week's farm report. And we're going to round home and we're going to put a bow on this thing. But before we do that, we're going to take
we're going to look ahead to the next 8 games. And Alex, you're probably not going to be with us next week, but we play this game where we try and predict the Cubs and what they're going to do. Kyle took the prize last week. I had the Cubs at 5-3. Bruce had them at 6-2, and Kyle had them at 4-4, which they finished at 4-4. So as we look ahead here, we have on deck first the Florida Marlins, Carlin Ray and Quintrell, Tyone and Weathers making his first start of the year, and then Brown versus Myers. We have that followed by the White Sox coming to town. Hopefully that'll be a Cade Horton start in that TBA versus that big guy, Mr. Sam Smith. Then you have Boyd versus Burke and Ray versus Cannon. So we have 8 ball games to get through. Let's start off with some predictions. What are the Cubs going to finish here in New York and get through this week coming up? What do we got, boys?
I'm going to say 4-4. If we're going over 8 games, 4-4. I think that I'm hoping they salvage one game in this Mets series. I really do.
I was about to say this might be the first sweep of the season for the Cubs. I mean,
yeah, I don't like the way this is matching up, but you never know. I'm a little concerned about that Sox series. I think the Sox are going to come in with a big chip on their shoulder. Their starting pitching has been pretty darn solid. Smith has been lights out. Yeah. Cannon has looked a lot better recently. And look, last year the Cubs won all 4 games against the Sox, but every single one of those games was down to the wire. A team that was historically terrible. The White Sox could have taken 3 or 4 from you easily last year. Easily. They are going to play you hard no matter what. They're going to have that chip on their shoulder. They are going to be riding high that the Pope is on their side against the Cubs. So, yeah. And after the Cubs posted that on the marquee, that was kind of an egg in the face on the Cubs. That's the kind of stuff that fuels weird things. Yeah. So, the Sox do kind of feel trappish to me. The Marlins have played better than I thought they would be, but they're starting to kind of look like the Marlins a little bit more. Hopefully you can at least take 2 or 3 in that series. But yeah, I just see a meh kind of stretch here. Hopefully it's better than that, but you hopefully take a majority of the games that you want to take over this stretch. But yeah, these games in New York, man, I don't know. It could be completely the opposite of what we think, but the Mets have been invincible at home. Like, every good juju is on their side. Part of me thinks, hey, could at least some bad juju be due for them once at home, for these remaining 2 games? But I don't know. They've just looked unstoppable at home right now. We're catching the Mets at kind of a bad time, I think. And they've played so many freaking games against good teams. It's like, all right, enough already.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. I'm going to go 4-4, Sean. I think they're going to get swept by the Mets. It's just like, so many times we've seen teams add superstars and it doesn't work out. Like, you remember when Soto went to the Padres and we were like, oh my God, is this a World Series team? And then they make the playoffs. But it's working out for the Mets. It's working out. And it seems like we've talked about this before, Sean. You add that superstar to the lineup and everybody gets better. Pete Alonso's starting to wake up a little bit. This is a dangerous team. This Mets team is very, very good. And I think they're going to end up sweeping the Cubs. Like Alex said, it's the timing of the matchup is not good for the Chicago Cubs, especially with losing Imanaga. It's just not good. Yeah. I think they're going to end up getting swept by the Mets, and I think they're going to be capable of going 4-2 in those other 2 series. So yeah, I'm going to say 4-4.
Hey, I'm going to pick the same thing I did last week. I'm going to go 5-3. I think they salvage 1 in Queens. They take 2 out of 3 from the Marlins, and they'll take 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. I almost said 6-2 because I want to have the faith that the Cubs are going to come in and they're going to pound the White Sox into submission.
I don't know.
Well, I you know what? Here, if it wasn't for Smith getting the first start of the series, I probably would have taken the sweep. I don't like I figure the Cubs started off well. You know, they beat Gallen, they beat some other front end pitchers, but at some point that's going to catch up to you. I have a feeling that could happen here. And it's kind of for me, wouldn't it be awesome to see Smith versus Horton in that first game and the future front end guys of both franchises?
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool.
I mean, that would be pretty awesome.
That'd be a tall task for Cade Horton. But yeah, at some point, like Alex said, he's going to have to face. I mean, and you talk about the Whites. Listen, the White Sox lineup is not good, but there are some guys who could still hit in that lineup, and it would still be a decent challenge for Cade Horton. I mean, you still have your Vaughns of the world, Luis Roberts of the world. So, but yeah, I think that'd be a perfect matchup for Cade Horton. I think it would be awesome to watch.
What do you got for the Cubs this week? This is our producer, Bruce, Alex.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
What's up? I think maybe 5-4, maybe
5-3.
5-3.
5-4. Yeah, 5-4, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna mark this down. He's gonna stick with me. We got you guys at 4-4. I'm gonna be sending out cards. Hopefully we're right. Hopefully the Cubs get through this week. They rebound. Coming into last night's game, you know, and as odd as baseball has been, and I got two nuggets before we get out of here. As odd as baseball has been going into last night's game, the Cubs were strangely tied with I can't remember who's in the lead in the AL West. Is it the Mariners right now in the AL West?
Who knows? That division stinks.
They were tied for the biggest lead in all of baseball. The Cubs are now down to 2 games after last night, unfortunately. But the one nugget that I did have, and it's a third base stat for the Cubs: no homers through 39 games for the first time since 1978. It just speaks how there's no power coming from what is historically a power position in baseball, and just not a lot happening down there. You know.
That Matt Shaw home run was a pinch hit, wasn't it?
It was a pitch in home run. It was correct.
Yep.
He wasn't a starting third baseman. So, yes, and that was – I had to go back and look at that.
Yeah, because
I had to go back and look at that.
Just Sean, looking at some of the stats today, it's just like so worrisome. Do you guys know that Justin Steele is still leading the Cubs in wins? He's tied for the lead. Justin Steele is still tied for the lead on the Cubs rotation and wins. 3. He hasn't pitched in him. He hasn't pitched in over a month. Like, jeez.
Not only 3-1, he finally pitched one hell of a ball game against Texas, and then we get the news.
Soul crush.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Alex, you got any great plans this weekend?
Oh, Mother's Day, we're celebrating tomorrow. So, and then today I'll just enjoy the nice day today. Even though allergies have been kind of getting to me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I'll power through it.
Yeah.
Alex, is all your family out here?
What's up?
Is all your family out here in the area?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sean, any Mother's Day plans for you?
My wife asked me to cook steaks on the grill with grilled romaine, potatoes, and she wants me to plant flowers with her. And that's going to be my Mother's Day.
Nice.
I'm gonna make my daughter do most of it.
I was gonna say that's her Mother's Day. She's gonna do all the work.
Yeah,
really. I think I'll be. Yeah.
Let me hand her the shovel and say, "Hey, Daddy's too old for this."
Yeah, really. You did the Christmas lights. That's enough.
Yeah, we took Christmas lights, and hopefully, what time are the Cubs on tomorrow? Because this might be one I have to sacrifice.
7:35.
It's an afternoon game. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my wife's not going to let me watch that.
Early game.
No Cubs game for me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, Marquee replays it 17 times, so you'll be able to watch
that
it
is true.
when you're laying in bed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. What are you doing tomorrow for Mother's Day, Kyle? What are you doing, Bruce? What do you guys got on the docket?
A small gathering for family tomorrow for lunch. So,
nice.
Yeah.
You know what I'll be doing, Sean?
Small gathering.
You don't know?
I'll be at work.
Oh, that's right. You work on Mother's Day. He's making Mother's Day dollars.
That's a good day for restaurants, man. It's a good day to work.
Hey, y'all, and really quick before we get out of here, Alex, if you want to give a shout out to where people can find you, I kind of shouted out at the beginning. There's 60 in the building. Let them know where they can find you. I'm sure there'll be more watching later.
Yeah, so if you want to find me on Twitter X, it's at ShyFanPat2, and you can go to my profile, see the links to my works. You could go to my website, alexanderjpatcreative.com. You could also go to Swirsky Sports and see the work I do with Sean Hotman there. Go to Fansided Cubby's Crib, go to Through the Garden Podcast, and ShyCitySports.com, where I write some Blackhawks. So check it all out. A lot of good platforms over there, and great for a Chicago sports fan looking for more content.
You're a busy man, Alex.
Yeah. This is on top of my full-time job, so.
You know what though? It's sports nuts like us that keep it going, and we've had some really good show numbers for the Bears lately, and they've took a little bit of a dive after the draft, but there's not too many people like us that eat, sleep, and breathe this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I got my Blackhawks wall right behind. Or actually, Alex, I'm actually going to see maybe next year you want to do some guest Blackhawks stuff because we're going to get a hockey podcast started here come probably end of August.
Just hit me up. I'd love to come on. Yeah,
absolutely. We got a couple hockey nuts doing that. Do you play fantasy hockey at all? Do you play fantasy sports at all, Alex?
Yeah, I play fantasy football every year. I played fantasy hockey a lot in college. I just haven't gotten enough people interested to do a league. So if you do one, you're looking for an extra person, you might have someone to hit up there, just so you know.
Well, I was asking because we're actually having our hockey party today, and I think my buddy from Tennessee is not going to rejoin the league, so I might shoot you a holler and keep it at a 10-man league here. It's a 10-man league, and it's super easy to manage. It's a weekly. It's not an everyday league, so set it and forget it, and hopefully you win. But we're doing that today. We're having a barbecue and 11 guys playing bags and bags and darts and drinking some booze, and we're gonna hopefully watch Cade Horton have a fantastic debut.
Hold him down, Cade. Hold him down.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Please. Do not come out like day. Don't come out like Jamison Tyan did last year.
No. For the love of God.
I was actually Sean. I looked at it was sorry to cut you off. It was at that Lindor at Patt. I was watching Tyan when he first came out, and I'm like, yeah, he looks a little off. And I looked at my buddy Jim, the bar back, and I'm like, I think this is going to be a long day for Tyan. Yeah. And Lindor hit the next pitch. Next pitch. I'm like, oh God.
I actually am going to miss 2 of these 3 games because I was at Schoolapalooza last night, being a chaperone and door security for my daughter's junior high, and you ever want to run into 10,000 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the face.
Yeah, I'll let you do that stuff. I'll no thanks.
Yeah, that was interesting last night. I could say that. Yeah. I didn't know it was going to be so gosh darn big.
May God have mercy on your soul.
Yes, seriously.
The school did really well, man. They were clocking. It was $5 entry, and man, there was a lot of people. There was a lot more people there than I thought. I'm glad it's once a year. I'm always helping to. I always help out the school. I love to participate in stuff like that. So, Duke was there last night. Duke was one of the caterers. Kyle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Cool. So Duke Blues and Barbecue, East Dundee, Illinois.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Jediah, Bruce, Scott, everybody in the chat. Alex, as always, man, we appreciate you so much. I know you're a busy guy. I know it's tough to get to spare some time, but we appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, man.
I always have a good time coming on, guys. So thank you.
Yeah.
And then shout out to River Street Tavern real quick, 102 North River Street, our first sponsor ever. We appreciate them as well.
And before we get out of here, don't forget, we'll be back on Monday for the Hallis Hall Hangover, Wednesday for the Barely There podcast, and I think I'm burning the midnight oil with Brandon again, as our boy Dustin had a baby, so he's a little overworked right now.
Well, he didn't have a baby.
Well, his wife had the baby. So I think I'm playing designated hitter again on Thursday, so come check us out. We appreciate y'all. Thank you guys all so much. Remember, watch these Cubbies and bear down, everybody.
Bear down.